In this lesson, we're going to learn how to do some color corrections, and we're going to use adjustment layers to do it. Over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we have the Adjustments panel. And the way this adjustment panel works is we have a series of buttons here for the most commonly used adjustment layers. If your adjustment panel is not showing, you can go under the Window menu at the top of the screen, and all the panels are under the Window menu. Now mine happens to be showing, so I'm going to start off by clicking on the Curves button right here, which brings up the Curves box. And the trick to this is we want to get our tonal range correct. So I'm going to hold down my Option button, or my Alt if I'm on Windows, and click and drag this little black slider until I start seeing some preview of shadows that are getting clogged up. Now this is way too far. What we want to do is just drag this until we can barely see some small areas getting clogged up, kind of like this. So now our shadows are nice and dark, but they're not devoid of detail. Now we're going to do the same thing with the white slider over here. I'm going to hold my Alt or Option down, click and hold down on the white slider, and begin moving that over. And this is going to indicate blown out highlights. We don't want highlights without detail, so we're just going to drag it over just enough to where some specks begin to appear. And we'll let go of it there. You see, it's okay to have tiny areas of blown out highlights. Those are to be expected, but we don't want our highlights to be devoid of details if we can avoid it. Well, now I've got my tonal range set, and you'll notice down here in the Layers panel that an adjustment layer has been added for these curves. And just like most layers do, they have a little eyeball right next to them. So we could turn this layer off and then back on. And you can see that we've got a really good difference here in the tonal range. Well, our image is looking better already, but we're not finished with it yet. We need to find out if this could benefit from some color adjustment. Now, if you're like most people, it's difficult to look at a photo and tell if it needs an adjustment just by looking at it. So what I recommend is going up to the Image menu up in the top of the screen, going down to Adjustments, and then choosing Variations. Now you'll see here this Variations thing isn't showing us anything, and I brought this up for a reason. Now, let me click Cancel and I'll show you what's going wrong. We've got the Curves adjustment layer selected over here in the Layers panel, and there's nothing on a Curves adjustment layer that can be color corrected. We have to click and select the layer that has the picture on it, which in this case is the background layer. So let me go back up to the Image menu to Adjustments, and then to Variations. And you'll see that now we've got a nice preview of what this picture would look like with more of these various colors. Now as I look at this, I can see that more cyan and more green, somewhere in there, is going to look better. We're not going to actually use this to make the change, however, because it's not adjustable. But it does have this really great preview. So I'm going to go up here and cancel out of this, and then go back to my Adjustments panel, and I'm going to click on the Color Balance. Now you'll notice that these little symbols are kind of tough to discern what's what, but if you put your mouse right on top of one, you'll be able to see up here in the upper left part which one you're looking at. So Color Balance is this one right here, so I'll click on it. And I know that this picture can benefit from a little bit of cyan and a little bit of green. Whoa, not that much green. Maybe just a little bit. Alright, well that's looking a lot better already. Now I recommend up here in the top where it says Tone, leave that on midtones. Looking down here in the Layers panel, you can see that a Color Balance adjustment layer has been added. And it has a little eyeball right here. We can click this layer on and off. There's the before, and there's the after. So we started off with this. We fixed the tonal range, and then we fix the color. Well, this is looking a lot better already. Now there is one other little thing that we may be able to do, and I'm going to go back over here to the adjustments panel, and you'll see that it's still showing all the information from color balance. So I'm going to go down here in the lower left hand corner of the adjustments panel and click the back arrow to bring up the buttons again. And this new button right here, Vibrance, is one that you may want to give a try. Vibrance is very similar to saturation, except that it only saturates colors that usually need saturation. So here's the Vibrance slider. I'm going to try that out and see if I can make this photo look even better. Now you don't want to overdo this because it makes the colors a little bit too bright if you do. But I think that looks a lot better. Now down here in the Layers panel, once again, we can see the before and after by clicking the view of this Vibrance layer on and off. The difference is very subtle, but it does make a difference. The advantage of these adjustment layers is that if you print this out and you decide that maybe it's not quite the way you wanted, you can go back and make adjustments. Like for example, perhaps the color wasn't quite right. So we could go back down here to the Layers panel, click on the color balance adjustment layer, and then go up here and make some changes. Likewise with the Vibrance, still adjustable, and same with the curves. You see, these adjustment layers make it so that your image is totally adjustable, and it really doesn't do any harm to the original because each one of these layers is separate from the original. It's kind of like laying a filter on top of your image. So using these adjustment layers is really the way to go when you're correcting your image.